All right, so I've been thinking recently about identity. I was writing yesterday around identity. I wrote uh, a Villanelle poem, I think, and I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the process, but I have been really thinking around the meaning of identity, and it's been something that I've certainly struggled with, in the past, because I do believe if you tell like a child that they are X, Y, and Z, they will more often than not go and fulfill that expectation. If you treat them acting out, and if you respond to that by reinforcing that that's like their identity, by saying to their parent or to another person of authority in the classroom that they're just a wee troublemaker and they just love to act up, then your brain like saves that as a little template, and it says, okay, then that's what we're doing. Because your brain just looks for attention and love are quite quantitative, aren't they? And if you're getting attention, your brain will save whatever it is that format was to repeat that, and it's like, okay, that's a good thing. And that's why we drive ourselves so much in terms of a direction to continually fulfill ourselves of this need of attention, this need of love. And I just, the more I've been consuming media recently and the more I've been seeing different things in the news, it all does relate back to identity. I think truly the idea of, if a person sees himself as being like a king or queen or something, then they will essentially live up to that. They will envision themselves in that and kind of embody it fully. Versus if you see yourself as, the victim, as someone who is, trod upon and faces great hardship, but inevitably is always given the shorter straw, then that's kind of what you're going to continually become. And I suppose we could see the idea of that really echo forward in terms of the identities that we see people assume online. Like someone joining like the incel community and viewing themselves as a victim of modern feminism or ideas, of sexual vibrancy. So really, that's what people do. People seek out echo chambers. I mean, look at the political landscape. People don't really want. People just want to hate. People want to hate, and they want to be told who to hate. And people love to be told that they're right in who they're hating. It doesn't take a flipping genius to figure that out. And I suppose I'm all over the map on this rant, But overall, honestly, identity is a struggle. Identity is something that we all need. Identity is something that we all kind of crave. And it can destroy us. And it can destroy many powerful things. If you assume yourself as part of a larger mass with shared values, then that is something innately human. The desire for answers, the desire for reassurance, that is all very human. And it's just so unfortunate that all too often a time that identity and that reassurance is wrapped up in such horrible belief systems of nationalism and sexism and of thinking I'm not the problem, and moreover what I like can't be the problem because I like it, therefore the other people are the problem and I just need to say it louder for it to be true, But anyway, I am feeling positive after doing all this stuff. This is the Attempt to Understand series. If you would like more, I primarily write these essays as written pieces on the platform Substack, so there'll be a link to that in the description if you feel like checking that out and reading the full kind of essay on identity. I will go over the poem that I wrote yesterday. Again, creative expression and writing is something I'll dive a lot deeper into in terms of the content that you'll be seeing, but when I wrote the poem just kind of throughout the day and I read over it, it felt extremely just crap. It just felt very cliche and like, what was it really saying? But to be honest, in rereading it as I was finishing off the poem, I came to actually enjoy it much more. So I'm going to grab that now and we'll read over that. Okay. So the poem is called Where Did I Go? Where did I go? I've been missing the old me. Can't tell the flakes from the snow. Questions I ask my cup of joe. Lately, this persona has a fee. Where did I go? Pick a new me from the row. Pray this one won't drain my energy. Can't tell the flakes from the snow. Blizzards blind my mind's flow. Powerful breeze, weak knee. Where did I go? Tried to re-roll in life's casino. Rejected, replaced. I hope for ease. Can't tell the flakes from the snow. Maybe it's this rocky home, so I'll pack up my bags and loyalties. Where did I go? Can't tell the flakes from the snow. So that's that little piece. Like I said, it was just kind of written throughout the day. I've been enjoying doing a little poem exercise and such each day and trying to really broaden the work that I'm trying to put out there. But it's so difficult, honestly, in terms of managing everything and dealing with the world now. Even just looking on your phone and seeing crap that happens. It's like if you look at that at the start of your day, your energy is just drained immediately, like three power levels, just down, because you're just mentally, encapsulated by all of this crap. But anyway, look, if you've watched this far, I appreciate that. Thank you for continuing to watch. This has not been the most stimulating content ever created, obviously, and you've really made an achievement to yourself for actually finishing nearly a 10-minute piece of content that does not have consistent Mr. Beast jumps and all that crap. But yeah, look, the point of this video, I would say, is really just to have a stepping stone to begin communicating, my ideas, my creativity, and what I've been thinking about recently. And that's what I've been thinking about recently. I've been thinking about identity, what identity means to ourselves, and the knock-on effects that identity can have to a society, when we subscribe ourselves to larger mentalities and we start to lose that individualism. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Hopefully everything is going well in your wee world. Certainly leave a comment or thread or something, and let me know if you have any thoughts about anything discussed today. I would love to go back and forth with some people and again widen that network a wee bit more. But otherwise, it is the morning for me. So if it's the morning for you, good morning. Hopefully the rest of your day goes well. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well wherever you are, in the afternoon or the evening. And just remember that everything's going to be okay. The world is in a terrible place. Everything is on fire. And that sucks. But it's going to be okay. You don't got to figure stuff out today. You can sort your identity out, in an hour, so you can write it down or something. Don't be panicking, because I know I panic too much for all of us. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Something that I've really struggled with, I would say, throughout life. Obviously all of us are forced into routine in some form. usually in school and getting up in the morning and having to do certain homework at a time, or if you were a child that decided not to do homework, you probably had some semblance of a routine to either avoid the consequence of that or to deal with that problem. Like you're on the school bus and you're copying off of someone you can copy off of because you've done it before, or you're paying someone to do homework. I feel like that's a very American thing, though, But routine for me, it's given me a lot in my life. It's given like stability and peace. Me and my partner used to be on different like work schedules where she was just working, a lot of like evenings and weekends, and I was always working the weekdays and off the weekends, and trying to mesh your life together and trying to have like not a stable relationship, but trying to have a relationship where you're just consistently getting the value from each other, and that you're enjoying each other's presence and you're really feeling like positivity from it, and it's just so different. See, when you actually are able to be on the same routine with someone, there's such comfort that comes from knowing I'm gonna eat at this time, we're gonna watch this entertainment, like again, just like being a kid, having the schedule, something I mentioned in the piece of like Simpsons at 6 o'clock, with dinner, and like a curfew at like 11 o'clock or whatever.
Here is the Sandman for a visual aid. He has come to rob the bank today, but Spider-Man is nowhere to be found. Little does Sandman know that Spider-Man is preoccupied trying to help the Silver Surfer find his surfboard. But Marco doesn't know that, and Marco was expecting a good, solid fight. Because this expectation hasn't been met, he wanders off, sadly, completely lost for the rest of his
And
day.
it's this structure of routine that really gives us gives a lot of practicality in terms of getting stuff done. Gives me practicality, because if I don't have a sense of routine, I so easily fall out of myself. If I don't have to work, my sleep routine will go out the window, and I'll start preferring to be up late into the night or the early hours of the morning, because it's so much more peaceful to exist at that time, and then sleep in during the day. And it is so difficult to pull yourself out of that and to keep flip-flopping between something that's resembles a healthy routine and then something that you more naturally lean towards. Really, like I was saying, with it becoming restrictive, for me, the routine, and it goes hand in hand with like the autism, I suppose, is the routine. It reassures me. Like if I'm planning to do a social thing, or if I'm planning to do an event with my partner or something, if that plan changes, it's really like disrupting, as in terms of my like daily state, like my mindset and how my body feels. Like I feel physically more tension, and even if it's not a plan that was like 100% solid, like a birthday that was cancelled or something like that, even if it was just I'm used to hanging out every Friday with people, and then Friday comes and that's not an option this week, and it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And although I hadn't confirmed it, it was like in the back of my head as like an agreement, like a little pre-contract or something, and we just had to kind of initial it and finish it, and then everyone else is like, nah, what are you talking about, man? There's no contract. And it just completely throws me off, like the whole day. Again, part of the ADHD and stuff like that is like waiting mode. If you have like an appointment coming, then you don't really feel you can do other stuff to a large degree. You're just kind of stuck in waiting mode for that appointment. Like you just kind of feel between two poles, and it's really similar to that, to be honest. It's like if the routine changes, I really have to put a lot of energy into like resetting my mind mentally, But in in terms of wrapping this up though, and I appreciate you listening if you're still listening to this, or watching this even, the contradiction of routine is that it gives peace and security, is that there is certainty that you're going to have time away from the rigorous brutality of life and the events that just keep coming around the corner and you don't know what they're going to be. And establishing some semblance of routine that I get to, watch a new episode of Severance every Friday, or I'm able to cook, meals that will last a couple days instead of every single day. I'm like, what's for dinner? Routine gives so much peace in those factors, but at the same time, it is so controlling, it feels, around my mental state, and how I physically feel is so wrapped up in having a consistent routine that I really struggle, with letting it have a big impact on me, So that's obviously something I'm going to have to work on, going to have to practice. I've dipped in and out of doing the whole Ali Abdal time blocking on Google Calendars. Every minute is like allocated to a task or something. And I feel like it helps in one respect and then it doesn't help in another respect. Like it's overwhelming, but it is nice to have a guarantee that you're going to do the tasks. But then the moment that you don't do the tasks, you just feel crap. You lose like trust in yourself. I'll wrap up with this, but I was watching, is it the Healthy Gamer guy? No, not the Healthy Gamer guy. Like the psychologist dude, like doctor, psychologist. He talks a lot around addiction and modern kind of contemporary problems and stuff like that for mental health. He was speaking about when your brain is giving you the urge to do something, then if you say no, and eventually a couple of minutes later, it kind of comes back to your head and you're like, yeah, all right, let's go do that thing, then all your brain is really learning. Oh, ignore that, this is my wee cat Milo. All your brain is learning, all you're reinforcing is what it needed to say, what volume it needed to tell you, essentially, to do that thing. So for next time, if that is still a behavior that you're not wanting to reinforce in yourself, it's just going to take more work to tell yourself no next time, because it's going to come at you with the same level of like urge and command to go and do whatever that behavior is, whether it's like drinking or smoking, or it's a different social behavior that you don't like. So yeah, all that just felt really related to me, in terms of the routine and your brain kind of expecting things. And it's really all about expectancy, isn't it? And having to like train your brain and stuff like that to kind of work easier with you. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. So again, thank you very much for listening and for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Britta joining us today. She's catching up on her Egyptology. And like I said, check out the Substack in the description and attempt to understand. There will be a short piece around routine that I wrote on there. So if you fancy reading more thoughts, and you can obviously start a discussion in the comments. You can message on Substack as well. And of course, if you feel like supporting, obviously hit subscribe and stuff. And there is a paid version on Substack where you can support the writing and get early access to content like this. So I think that about wraps us up today. Again, thank you very much for listening, watching. Hope you all have a terrific day. For me, it's the morning of Tuesday. So if it's morning out there, good morning to you. Best of luck for the rest of your day. If you're winding down with your day, then that's amazing. Well done. I'm sure you did a great job today. And even if you're not feeling the most positive about it, that's all right. You can do stuff tomorrow. That's all good. Don't worry. All right. I gotta go, but I'll see you later. Remember to do all that stuff I just said. All right. Bye-bye. Hey, good day. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Adam Dean, writer of An Attempt to Understand on Substack, and I hope you're having a great day today. Oh, I'm having a pretty nice morning so far. The sun is out, so I can't be complaining too much. So today I wanted to speak primarily around, I suppose, hustle content would be the best phrase for it. That is what the piece on the Substack is about for this week. So obviously, like I've said before, head over there, and it is quite a personal read, to be perfectly honest, this time. I didn't really intend for it to go in this direction. I just kind of set off wanting to speak about that. I'm finally obviously putting some stuff out there in terms of content, putting some writing stuff on Substack, and I'm feeling really positive for doing that. I've been watching content for years about creating and making money and all of that business. And I really fell down the initial rabbit holes of, I would say, the top hustle-y creators from back in the day, like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and even in the UK, Samuel Leeds, who's like a property scammer, essentially. But anyway, it's really just recently that I've fully acknowledged that what was essentially an obsession, an unhealthy obsession with that style of content, and I've just been thinking about kind of the cycles that it would put me in. Because obviously you watch, why do you watch that content in the first place? You watch it because it's motivating. You're like, wow, this person has been able to achieve X thing, earn, whatever reward it is that you like, whether it's the lifestyle of a bunch of money or whether it's the freedom aspect of not having to rely upon a job system or something like that. And really, I would just go through this line of I would be motivated and I would feel positive and I'd be like, yeah, let's kick ass. But then I wouldn't take any action, like the part of my brain that was the wee voice that said, hey, we should be doing stuff, we should earn, would kind of be satisfied with me just gorging on that content for a little while. If I just would binge Gary Vee's little instructional things or him going to, what he used to do, he used to go to like yard sales in America and like hustle some mum over like a Pikachu plush, and he's like, nah, $8, I'll give you 3. He's just such a twit. But yeah, in reality though, I really just fell into a cycle where I would watch it, I would get motivated, I wouldn't take any action because the part of my brain would kind of be scratched by watching the content in the first place. And then I would really just feel guilt. After not doing anything, I would just feel a lot of guilt, to be honest. And that really just continued with me and just meant to me wasting time. I just kind of kept putting this mental burden on myself, excuse me. And to be honest, I feel it's actually quite similar to the guest star of this episode, which is Janice Soprano. I'll go over it fully afterwards, but really I feel that both Janice and I had toxic things presented in our lives and still chose to continue taking in those toxic things, even though we knew it wasn't the best thing for us. So let's throw over to our girl Janice here and we'll watch the clip.
Actual physical sensations of anger.
He saw red. But what if?
She's right. I mean, why is he in here? Why isn't his roommate in therapy for selfishness issues?
There are always going to be things out there that are irritating and annoying and out of our control. What we can control is our response to those triggers.
So people just get a free pass, the whole world.
I told you about my supervisor checking my work and nobody else's. I wonder why.
Because you're a minority?
Exactly. That's why I'm in here.
Uh-huh.
You seem angry about Evelyn's problem.
Makes me mad.
It doesn't make you mad. You make you mad.
I come from a biased family, but I was different. I put all my faith and my hopes into the civil rights movement. I left home and I marched. And for what? So they could ride around in their SUVs blasting that rap shit and you can't say anything because they might have guns?
Wait a fucking minute. Who's they?
If the shoe fits.
Oh,
This is fucking priceless.
okay. Let's not time travel here. Let's try to stay in the present. Janice, you're angry. Let's stay with that. What are your actual physical feelings right now?
I'd like to punch in the face.
Your hands are clenched. So you realize that?
You're provoking me to make a point, and maybe that's your job, but I don't like it.
Look at you. You're not even listening.
Hello, he's talking to me.
No. You and me, we do most of the talking in here. The man is trying to say that those people outside, they do the thing, but we're the ones that get all upset and start carrying on. That's all he's saying.
I think.
Love The Sopranos so much. Wasn't that brilliant? Just love The Sopranos. So, look, as obviously Janice was kind of learning there and was getting told by her woman and all, um, she really learns that just because someone acts in a poor way, it is her who decides how she reacts. At least for a little while, she learns that lesson. I was thinking it can be compared to my own behaviour, with the hustle content, because yes, it is considered kind of poor in terms of promoting the unhealthy, work culture, but I really decided to use it as motivation, then as a way to guilt myself and just run to short-term pleasure, essentially just whatever would make me not feel poor for not having done anything. And then I really realised that it could act differently. I kind of went and had to be educated a wee bit, gain a different sense of perspective. Because after a while, when I hadn't just mastered a skill and made a bunch of money, like I watched the Social Network again, like years ago at 15 or whatever, and just thought, that seems to be the move. Just get some programming in, earn a bunch of money, done. And that, very much like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and all that crap, satisfied that part of my brain. And programming and stuff was an easy answer as well. Like if a teacher or a careers person or a family member was like, oh, well, what are you doing? I could just say, oh, I'm going to do like tech stuff, like programming or whatever. And that was like a good answer. That was like satisfactory. They're always like, oh, well, there's always jobs in IT and blah, blah, blah. And I just never had the actual interest or passion to really get in and do it. Like I tried to start a couple times and I was given resource and stuff, but I just never really like took off with it and got obsessed in the way you would obviously need to be to get those skills. And because I didn't earn a bunch of money off of programming or anything like that, I ended up being 19, needing to move out because I was with my partner at the time and we were both done with living at the constraints of being with our family. And I was like, look, I got to get a job. All of a sudden I was really hit with this reality check. And so I went and just got like a call center job, and then I got extremely depressed. Like I started working in the call center and it was good. Like I was earning money, I was able to pay the bills and stuff, but it was also extremely just my mental health was so low, because I was talking to the public every day and the public is really just give or take, win or lose. You could go 2 hours and feel pretty okay because you're just doing your job, and then you get one person who just sours all of that, So that was really tough for a long time, and I ended up needing therapy and stuff, and I was lucky enough to have a good support system that my mum was very forward with pushing me to go to the doctors and signing me up for help and stuff like that. And I think without that, other person taking the initiative, I wouldn't have really got help. So I was really blessed there, to be honest, that I received help without even needing to really push for it, and I did go to the doctor and stuff, but like that's besides the point. Really, after coming out the back end of that, I learned, I went to therapy and I learned to have an addictive personality, which was certainly a good thing to learn at a young age before I fell down any more scams, because I never paid for any of those people. I never went to Samuel Leeds runs like workshops around the UK, and he uses, and it goes more into this in the article if you fancy reading more, but he uses predatory tactics of creating fake scarcity, around the places. So he'll give a big talk in a hall and say, look, X amount of people's lives have been transformed by property, specifically by me in my process. We only have like 15 slots. And he'll say that to a room of like 40 or 50 people. And he'll say the first people to get down to the back and to literally like hand over money, like cold hard cash or like your credit card, gets a slot. And it creates this fake impression that he's selling something that's going away, which he's really not. He's just incorporating you into like an MLM scheme. So I'm really glad I didn't fall into any stuff like that. And again, this is way before Tate was still sexting men on the internet back when I was watching this stuff. So this is before any of that get into my war room bloke crap, which obviously everyone knows is poor. But if you've fallen down any of those pipelines, or if you've identified with any of that content as like a meal, can I just say that it is the couple bits of sugar that you're identifying with, like seeking identity through an authority figure, because that is missing in your life. You know, like there's little parts in all of those things, whether it is Tate with his culture war that he's putting forward, or the hustle content with Gary Vee and stuff like that. Usually all of them sprinkle a little bit of truth or like good advice about empathy or business practice or something like that into it as like little hooks, and then they put the rest of either their ideology or their motivations onto you to take money. But anyway, this is getting a wee bit long, so like to start wrapping up, you know, really what made the change for me was, like I said, again, a bit more perspective. I stopped taking in all of that content and started processing stuff a wee bit better. I started creating, like I said, writing short stories. I took a writing class, started writing poems, and I've started to put stuff out on the Substack, which is making me feel really positive. So I'm thankful that I finally started. And hopefully now I'm kind of motivated. You know, I continue being motivated by this progress. Obviously, it's not all about motivation. Shout out, Jacko, the big seal guy, the box head. It's all about discipline, man. Can't count yourself to be motivated to get out of bed and all that. So yeah, fair enough. A lot of it is about discipline. You can't just feel motivated all the time, and that's real. But we also need to be careful where we seek our motivations from and what we're really getting from it. Because again, I think I really used all of this content as a measure to guilt myself. And once I got into the job, and again, the article goes further into this, once I got into that call center job, I still watched the content, but it wasn't motivating me anymore. It was just acting as like a switch to hit myself with, because it was like I was watching the lane I wasn't taking, you know. And I just felt poor about it all the time. But I'm feeling much better now, which is the whole point of this video. So, if you've made it through with me, take a wee breath, because that was a bit heavy. And let's have a wee think. You know, if you're stuck in the loop, really it's just beginning to any degree that will break that loop, which is not a new message. That's like 1 billion times repeated on YouTube, especially in the art area, you know, the life of RZA girl or whatever. So yeah, look, ask yourself if there is a direction that you've been having a call to go in. Maybe it is businessy related, like the creators I talked about. Maybe it's more like what I'm doing, or it's artistic. It's, you know, trying to express yourself or whatever in some way. Or maybe it's a combination of both, or something that doesn't look at all like either. You know, whatever you have a wee calling for, try to think of a way to take some steps towards that. Or if you're already going in that direction, you know, how could you do something today that would help that more? And hopefully it'll make you feel more like yourself, because I'm certainly feeling more like myself from doing this stuff. Right, well, yes, look, once again, thank you very much for watching. Again, the Substack is an attempt to understand, and you can check out the articles there that these videos are based on, as well as support with a premium membership, and you can get the videos early access as well. So yes, again, if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I'm very proud of you. Go ahead and leave a wee comment, sure, like it and all that stuff that they tell you to do, and I will see you later. If you are not having a great day so far, I hope that turns around for you. If you're having a great day already, I hope that continues. And always remember, like I said before, if you've had a poor day and you're not feeling too happy with yourself, that's okay. The best thing you can do is just to put that past you, like I put the other crap behind me, and just move forward and act more in a way that feels true tomorrow. Alright, I think we're going to call it there. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. I've been Adam Dean. Thank you.